Remember the thrill of a Saturday morning, newspaper in hand, catching the scent of fresh-cut grass as you headed to the local fairgrounds for a car show? The rumble of V8 engines, chrome gleaming in the sun, and fenders polished to mirror perfection. It was pure magic. In the 1960s, car shows weren't just about rubber and steel. They were a living gallery of innovation and American pride, where families gathered, friendships grew, and dreams took shape in the form of Mustangs, GTOs, and Cadillacs with tail fins reaching for the sky. Back then, kids pressed sticky palms to hood ornaments while parents swapped stories about drives on Route 66. The unmistakable mix of exhaust and popcorn filled the air, while the radio crooned Elvis or the Supremes nearby. Did you ever yearn to touch the wheel of a car you saw gleaming under those lights, imagining all the roads it had traveled? Today, let's step back to those unforgettable weekends where every rev of the engine promised freedom and every show car sparkled with hopes of a country on the move. Ready to revisit the sights, sounds, and spirit that made 60s car shows truly legendary? To understand the phenomenon of 1960s car shows, let's turn back the clock to a time when America was still shaking off the dust of the post-war years. The car culture of the 60s didn't just spring up overnight. It was the result of two dynamic decades of growth intertwined with the country's heart and highways. In the spirit of the era, imagine yourself headed down Main Street, the whole family squeezed into a two-tone sedan with bench seats. Anticipation in the air. The suburbs were booming, highways stretched out like ribbons, and cars weren't just transportation. They were dreams on four wheels. After World War II, America saw widespread prosperity, and more families found themselves with extra cash and a yearning for mobility. Car ownership boomed. By the mid-1950s, it was common for households to own not just one, but sometimes even two vehicles, a novelty that would have seemed impossible a generation before. Automobile manufacturers fueled the excitement with ever bolder designs, sleek tail fins, chrome for days, and colors as loud as the music on the jukebox. But by the dawn of the 1960s, a new kind of excitement was building, not just for what was being built in Detroit, but for the spirit of community that swirled around these mechanical marvels. It's easy to forget today just how rare cars like the Ford Mustang or Chevy Corvette were in their first years. Unless your dad or neighbor worked at the local dealership, you may have only seen these beauties in advertisements or on the show floor. And a car show was your chance not only to lay your eyes on these machines up close, but also to dream a little. With the rise of recreational groups and local clubs, the car show became more than just a place to admire. It was a celebration of American innovation, a gathering of like minds, and, in many towns, a new annual tradition that families looked forward to each year. Did you ever line up with friends to be among the first through the gate, eager to count how many Thunderbirds or 59 Impalas you could spot? Behind the scenes, organizers, often avid enthusiasts themselves, worked for weeks to coordinate spaces, shop for trophies, and print up colorful flyers. One fascinating behind-the-scenes detail: early car shows often included an entire category just for futuristic concept cars, with automakers eager to dazzle the public with wild space-age designs, bubble canopies, push-button transmissions, and steering wheels that looked more at home in a spaceship than on the road. Sometimes those prototypes never went into production, but seeing one gleam beneath the fairground lights could make even the most practical grown-up pause and wonder, what if? But car shows were about much more than just hardware. In the midst of growing towns and changing landscapes, they became safe ground for neighbors and pals to gather, share stories, and revel in the unmistakable optimism of the era. Local radio stations would broadcast live, playing rock and roll hits while children darted between rows of cars, collecting free keychains and plastic model kits. Many shows invited proud owners to stand by their machines, ready to pop the hood and rattle off stories about rebuilt engines or that one unforgettable road trip. Did you ever listen in as someone described a cross-country trek in a Cadillac convertible with the top down, Route 66 stretching forever ahead? Speaking of road trips, did you know that several of the most iconic car shows originated as extensions of long-distance rallies? Early in the 60s, groups of drivers formed caravans, traveling hundreds of miles just to attend the first show of the season. These rolling convoys became legendary in their own right, with pit stops at roadside diners and motels forming cherished memories. Sometimes it wasn't even about the cars, it was about the friendships forged along the way, and the collective anticipation of arriving together, engines cooling and white-wall tires crunching over gravel as folks poured into the fairgrounds in a cloud of nostalgia and cigarette smoke. There's a tale from the Midwest. One small town hosted a show so popular that it required 4 blocks of Main Street to be closed off. In those days, parking meters were bagged, literally with handmade sleeves, so hot rods and family sedans alike could line up side by side without the worry of a ticket. Fathers would point out classic details to their sons, like split windshield wipers or dog dish hubcaps, while mothers admired the vibrant, two-tone paint schemes and thick, gleaming upholstery. Virtually every car had a story, and if you asked just right, the owners would let you step inside, behind the wheel, if only for a moment. What was the one car you always dreamed of sitting in, hoping its magic would rub off on you? The car shows of the early 60s marked a turning point in how Americans related to their vehicles and to each other. Unlike the formal exclusive exhibitions of earlier decades, these community-driven events were open, accessible, and designed to bring people together. Even if you arrived in a rusty old station wagon, you were welcomed, encouraged to dream, and perhaps inspired to restore a future beauty of your own. For many, this was their first experience with real car culture, the lingo, the pride of ownership, the gentle rivalry between Chevy and Ford camps. You might not believe this, but it wasn't unusual for a group of teenagers armed with only soap, water, and a hand-me-down chamois to spend hours polishing every inch of their family's sedan, hoping to catch a judge's eye or simply make their parents proud. And so across America, the ritual took hold. Every show became both a time capsule and a beacon. Car enthusiasts passed down their love of the hobby to their children, and in many towns a first trophy from a 60s show still occupies a place of pride decades later. Some shows flourished for generations, eventually growing into national attractions that drew thousands of visitors, while others remained humble community affairs, each with its own character and legends. Whether you remember a bustling city event or a quiet gathering at a rural fairground, those early car shows helped define not just what Americans drove, but how they celebrated coming together. But that's not all. The evolution of the car show in the 1960s mirrored the era's bold steps forward in technology and design. As we move deeper into this gleaming world, get ready to discover how the quest for speed, innovation, and a certain type of American flair transformed not only the cars themselves, but the very spirit of the shows. What inventions and dazzling features awaited eager fans as the years rolled on? The next part of our journey brings us closer to the engines, the brilliant details, and the technological marvels that gave 60s car shows their unmistakable sparkle. As we come to the end of our journey through the car shows of the 1960s, it becomes clear these gatherings were much more than showcases for chrome and horsepower. They were true celebrations of community, ingenuity, and shared dreams. The weekends we spent wandering between gleaming Fords, Chevys, and Chryslers, the sunlight bouncing in all directions off polished hubcaps, linger in memory, not just for the cars themselves, but for the sense of anticipation and camaraderie that filled the air. We followed the evolution from the humble early days, when small towns closed off Main Street and homemade paper flyers beckoned car lovers from down the road, to the heyday when concept cars dazzled under spotlights and whole families traveled miles just to see what Detroit had dreamt up next. Every tail fin, every spotless engine bay told a story, and every owner hummed with pride as they described their labor of love or handed off a set of keys to the next generation. The impact of these car shows rippled far beyond the fairgrounds. For many of us, they sparked a lifelong passion, whether it was tinkering in our own garages, trading stories with friends, or simply admiring a beautiful machine as it glided by on a Sunday afternoon. The shows became seasonal markers, woven into the fabric of each summer, uniting people of all backgrounds in appreciation for style and ingenuity. Tire tracks faded from the grass, but the sense of possibility, what we could build, what we could share, endured. In a world that was moving ever faster, car shows offered a moment to pause, to savor the tangible artistry of the era, and to remind ourselves that progress could be joyful, colorful, and thoroughly communal. Looking back, can you remember the glint of a candy apple red paint job or the satisfying thump of a trunk closing after a day of showing off? Did you trade stories with a stranger about a cross-country trip? Or maybe bring home a plastic trophy that held a place of honor for years? Perhaps you watched as your parents' eyes lit up at the design of a particular model, or stood in awe at a concept car that seemed to promise a Jetsons-like future. These memories didn't just define an era, they helped shape who we are, reminding us that a little imagination and a lot of hard work can result in something truly magical. So let's take a moment to reflect. What was your most unforgettable experience at a 60s car show? Did a certain model stop you in your tracks, or did you make a friend over a shared love for a particular make? We'd love to hear your stories. Share your favorite recollections in the comments below and help us relive those golden days together. If you enjoyed this nostalgic drive down memory lane, please give this video a like and consider subscribing to our channel so you won't miss out on future journeys into the past. Don't forget to pass this along to a family member or friend who cruised the car show circuit right alongside you, or who might appreciate rekindling those memories. There's more to discover in this vibrant history. Our next video will steer you even deeper into the sights and stories that defined our favorite decades. In the end, maybe it wasn't just about the cars, it was about the people, the laughter, the friendships, and the simple pleasure of a perfect summer day. Here's to the timeless spirit of the 60s car shows, a shining example of how coming together, whether for horsepower or just for fun, can leave tire marks on our hearts that never fade.